Good evening and welcome to our virtual town hall. The European Parent-Teacher Association is proud to host this event in collaboration with our DoDEA-Europe leadership to help share important information about plans to reopen school this fall with our families, schools, and communities across Europe. Stakeholders were asked to submit questions via an online submission form by noon Central European Time yesterday. And tonight, we'll be hearing answers on a variety of key topics based on your questions. Joining us tonight are Dr. Del McMullen, DoDEA-Europe Director for Student Excellence, Dr. Charles Kelker, DoDEA-Europe Chief of Staff, Mr. Steven Sanchez, Europe East District Superintendent, Dr. Michelle Howard-Bahaney, Europe South District Superintendent, Ms. Melissa Hayes, Bavaria Community Superintendent, Dr. Terry Marshall, DoDEA Virtual High School Principal and DoDEA Principal of the Year, and Ms. Scarlett Lake, DoDEA Virtual High School Assistant Principal. Our European PTA President, Ms. Rebecca Conde-Jacobson, will be serving as tonight's moderator. At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. McMullen to start the event off with a few words from DoDEA-Europe. Dr. McMullen?
Thank you, Mrs. Garst, and good evening, everyone. I thank you all for your participation in tonight's European PTA Town Hall. We're grateful to the EPTA for providing this special opportunity and for their continued partnership, especially during these challenging times. And we are immensely grateful to all of you, parents, students, commanders, educators, and community members who are joining us tonight from around the world. I've said it before and I will say it again. The way everyone came together to ensure continuity of education for our students this past spring as a pandemic spread across the globe was nothing short of inspiring. It's important that we maintain that sense of community and combined effort as we head into the upcoming school year. 5 months ago, when we closed our schools, it was our sincere hope that we would open school year 2021 back in our school buildings. We believe that the routines we establish at our brick and mortar schools provide a stabilizing factor in our students' lives, and that in-person instruction from their teachers is the optimal learning environment for our students. We were steadfast, however, that we would only return to the classroom if we were confident that we could safely operate, because the safety of our students, our staff, and our communities is our #1 priority. As we all know, the topic of school opening is currently a hot button issue that is being debated publicly back home in the U.S. We are confident, however, that given the conditions here in Europe, we are in a good position to open our schools in accordance with CDC guidelines outlined in our return to school plans. Since the beginning of this pandemic, we have been lockstep with our senior and local military leaders. That partnership has been and will continue to be critical to the success of our mission. Rest assured that as we open our school doors in the coming school year, the partnership with our military leaders and the healthcare community will continue to be paramount, and we will have protocols and procedures in place that ensure constant coordination. Our return to school plan aligns health and safety practices to CDC guidelines and DoD COVID-19 health protection conditions. Our plan incorporates numerous safety measures to safeguard our students and our employees: social distancing, face coverings, limited large group gatherings, and canceling contact sports. And yes, I'm afraid that does include canceling the high school football season this fall. We know this is a time of great uncertainty for everyone. While we believe that we have put into place a comprehensive plan for reopening our schools safely, we also recognize that in-person classes may not be suitable for some of the students and the families we serve. Therefore, in order to ensure continuity of education for every student, we are offering families the option of a full-time virtual school for all students, grades K through 12. We are aware that reopening our schools in conjunction with this new virtual option has led to many questions. In fact, we received well over 1,000 questions prior to this town hall. That is a good thing. We love that DoDEA parents are heavily vested in their children's education and concerned about their health and well-being as we are. Obviously, however, we cannot answer 1,000 questions this evening, but we did find a number of prevailing themes that we will address tonight. So, for this evening's town hall, we have categorized the 1,000 plus questions into 7 major themes, and we will provide as much insight as we can around those topics. We know that we will not answer all of your questions this evening. Neither will we alleviate every concern that you have. But I can assure you that this is just one forum for the discussion around this topic. Superintendents and principals have been and will continue to provide information, answer questions, and participate in military-led town halls through the summer and into the school year. This is a challenge, but one that we are prepared for and ready to take on with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McMullen. Now it's time to begin the Q&A portion of our town hall. Ms. Conde Jacobson, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Garst. So my first question is for Dr. Marshall and Ms. Lake. The first question is, can you provide some details regarding the virtual instructions and how it will compare to in-classroom instruction?
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. I know that's a loaded question and one that a lot of people want. I would like a clear, concise answer. I'll do my best on this one. So I just want to tell you, I'm Dr. Marshall again, and we've been doing the virtual school for over a decade now, I think, as is mentioned. And there are some differences between virtual learning and in-class instruction. You use the word compare. And I don't want to compare because in the terms of what's good or what's bad. What I want to do is share with you this. The virtual online instruction is standards-based. It's based on DoDEA standards. The students will get the same standards and curriculum and content. It just looks different. It has to look different because it's on an online environment. We will be purchasing courseware that are specific to the online environment. I know you guys had the remote learning in the spring, and our teachers did a fabulous job with that remote learning. But there's some key difference. The remote learning tends to mimic the face-to-face classroom. It's a bell schedule. It's all those things because they're going back into the environment, the face-to-face, we hope within a short period of time. It's not supposed to be an ongoing thing for the students or for the teachers. It's just a short snippet of time that they can still give the education to our students, and with the purpose of going back into the school without missing a beat in education. Well, the online looks a little bit different. When we start in the online curriculum, what we have, and I'm going to give you some, as a teacher, I'm going to tell you some new terminology. We have something called asynchronous instruction. And what that means is that the content and curriculum is available to students and to, in this case, probably parents, for the students to access at any time of the day that they want to, right? There'll be videos, there'll be direct instruction videos made by either the vendor or by the teacher. There'll be activities that they'll engage that are specific to the online environment. They were created for the online environment. In fact, as part of our school, we have what we call instructional designers. And our designers are there to support the teachers to help design the engagement for the students so they can be actively engaged in that online environment, similar to the way you want active engagement in the face-to-face environment. Our teachers focus on presence. They focus on getting to know the student and to being available for the student. But what we do is what we also try to do is let the student be a little bit independent in their learning as well. So though there are due dates, and there's assignments, we don't actually say from 9 to 10, you actually have to do this, because we also know there may be times when parents have several kids at home during the things, and they need to be able to access the curriculum when it suits the family needs. We teachers will have office hours for the kids to make sure that they are in contact with the students, but we have to partner with the parents because we can't see them. We don't always know what's going on. We can tell sometimes through when the students respond to us that something may be going on. But if there's other things, the parent needs to help reach out to the teacher to say, hey, there's something else going on. Hey, my student really may not be getting this one point. How can we help? We have to be a partnership, excuse me, with that parent as well. Feedback becomes imperative in the online environment. Feedback is critical, and that's where the learning takes place in the online environment as well. We have to be more specific. It has to be timely, and it has to be catered to that for that student. We point out what the student does well, give them the hooray, yay. But we also, hey, here's where we need you to improve on, and here's how you can do that. And so that's where the learning occurs within the feedback. And again, people ask us about attendance. Well, if the students aren't turning their work, they're not attending our school. We don't have to check the box and say, hey, you're not here. No, it's, oh, this student has not done this work. We're contacting the parent right away. Oh, so we are in constant contact, but it is a hand-in-hand partnership. And I will tell you, it's not like the remote learning. I want to emphasize that again. You will not have a live teacher doing a live lesson at a particular time of day. And I think that's one of the critical differences, one of them in the online environment. They are accessible, but sometimes students don't actually need our assistance, believe it or not. I know teachers don't want to hear that, but every once in a while they're able to move forward. And then when they hit a little, we call it a productive struggle, that's where our teachers jump in to get them through, to push them through. And again, especially in the K-6 arena, it has to be definitely a partnership with our parents, because the younger students need their parents coaching, and they need us to help with the curriculum. In the K-6, we typically have what we call parent guides for the parents as well, because so they'll know how to help support that student, how to help move them along, how to help get into the help contact the teacher. We also have orientations for kids that, again, just like they have to learn to be in the face-to-face classroom, the students have to learn how to learn online. And what we're hoping is that these skills will transcend just this pandemic, that as you know, as we get older, college and career readiness, many of our colleges are doing online learning. They had to go to the pandemic. And we want our students to have those tools and supports and know how to have those skills. It may not be what they like to do, but a lot of us don't like to do things. What we do know is we have to have the skills to make sure that we can complete those projects, whether we like them or not. And how do we have those skills? How do we build those tools in our arsenal to make sure that we can do those things? So the comparison, I don't again want to say that it's no good, no bad. It's what you think is best for the child. These are DoDEA certified teachers. So you're not getting some offshoot program, not at all. They're certified teachers. They're here to make sure your students get their education that they be in the face-to-face classroom. But it just looks different. It looks, there's an online and there's an online, and then there's the in-person, and they will have, again, the similar curriculum. They will have similar, they will have the same standards, but it will just, the instruction will take place differently. And I would like to see if Ms. Lake would have anything else to add to that.
Thank you, Dr. Marshall. Exactly what you said. It's the same standards. It's certified DoDEA teachers. It looks different. The content is always there, but as you alluded, our teachers will do some synchronous, same time support for any student. They may do individual. It may be small group. It will not be that entire class, but that way they can tailor it. So online instruction gets tailored from the very start. So I think everything else you've covered.
Thank you. One more thing, it becomes a more personalized experience, as Ms. Lake said, and I think I skipped that. It becomes more a personalized experience for the students and for the parents, and it almost has to be, because we aren't doing a lot of whole group instruction. We're doing small group and individual. So thank you, Scarlett, for pointing that out for us. Ms. Jacobson, I hope that helps.
No, it did. It really did. And thank you, both of you, Dr. Marshall and Ms. Lake. Another question for actually both of you is, if a family chooses virtual instruction for the first semester and switch to in-person for the second semester, will the instruction be in sync so there are no transition issues?
So the instruction will be in sync. We are working with our ISSs all throughout headquarters in the district to make sure that the content covered during the in-person is the same content that covered in virtual. It may not be in the same order, and again, it may look a little different, but we are making sure that we're as closely in line as possible to the DoDEA scope and sequence that they have. So the transition should be not a challenge. I will never say nothing is ever seamless, but it should be very little transitional issues back into that. We are working again closely with the instructional system specialists in charge of curriculum to make sure that we can do that for our students.
And the plus is that the teacher, if they go back, the virtual teacher and the person-to-person teacher are in the same system. So those teachers can communicate. If there's any question from the face-to-face teacher, they can reach out, same email system, and ask that virtual teacher so that they can communicate and continue to collaborate, so to minimize any transition issues.
Thank you. I think that's great that you guys are working together, and I think that might help a lot of our parents hearing that. Another question for both of you, Dr. Marshall and Ms. Lake, is for our special education students who enroll in the virtual school, will they be able to receive in-person services such as OT and speech?
So what I want to first start off with as we answer that question is that though the students are coming to the virtual school, they are still enrolled in their local school. It is a partnership between the schools. We are here to provide the educational instruction for the online, but some of the supports and resources will still have to be done at the local school. So that's why we have to have that partnership with us in the local school. So I wanted to start up there that they're not disengaging from the local school. They're not disengaging from that principal or that counselor or some of the other things that they get at that local school. But again, it may look different. And then with special education, we will have to look at everybody's IEPs and 504s, and I might say the ESOL as well, because all those they're different. They're different accommodation and modifications have to be made, and so we're looking at making sure that we read them and we talk to the parents. There may be times that they have to be adjusted to the online environment, and if the services that you said like OT and speech, well, they may get it from somebody at the local school, but it may look different. They may do it through a Google Meet or a Zoom like this. The guidance has not come completely out because headquarters and I are working together to make sure that we are looking at all the implications this could have for both the students and the families. And so the guidance is being worked on right now. But we will, the virtual schools does have people with IEPs already. About 10% of population in the virtual school right now are on IEPs or a 504 plan. So we constantly service them as well. But you're right, one of the things we'll have to do is evaluate each IEP or each 504 plan or each ESOL plan to make sure that what the students get and needed are they able to retain. But that can't be a question that can be answered. It has to be a question that answered individually. And so I will tell the people, tell our group, our families, to make sure you reach out to the principals at this as well. And if there's a case, so they can look over the IEPs and then talk with us, and then we can hopefully set up a plan that works the best for these students with special needs or special needs. Scarlett?
Nothing to add to that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That was really informative. But another question for you, for both of you, Dr. Marshall and Ms. Lake, is for families who choose virtual, will there be an option to maintain level 2 services for gifted students?
So that's I probably could have included that in the last question as well. So it will be the same. We'll have to look at the gifted education plan and work with that gifted teacher, and they may support it differently in the online environment. They may still be working with that gifted teacher, but in a different way with the teacher of record for us. So again, the guidance that will come out and we'll have the partnership, but we don't want to eliminate any service. But I do want to say that, remember, we are still in an online environment and things will look a little differently. And so I don't want people to say, oh, it's going to be exactly the same thing, because there may be some nuances that change with this. But that's why we have to be in constant contact with the family and the local school and the DoDEA virtual school. It has to be a triad for us.
All right, thank you. And this next question is actually for Dr. Delker. Can families access the school to see the setup of a classroom prior to the July 28th deadline?
Hi, this is Dr. Kelker, and that is a great question. We certainly understand that parents would like as much detailed information on possible setup and protocols that each school will be accomplishing prior to making decisions on if they wish their student to go in person or through the virtual instruction next semester. But unfortunately, that is not an option right now. And the reason for that, the primary reason for that, is that the setup of the classrooms will be dependent on the number of students that opt for virtual instruction. And as you know, that number won't be known to us until 28 July. So once we have those numbers, that will influence how the administrators configure the classrooms and what other protocols that they'll put in place, including decisions regarding social distancing and face coverings. So again, July 28th is a key date for us, because that will help us determine how to align our resources for both the virtual and the in-person opening of the schools. So thank you very much for a great question.
Thank you, Dr. Kelker, for your answer. And our next question is again to Dr. Marshall and Ms. Lake. If our families choose in-person instructions to start, but we don't feel comfortable with the safety measures after experiencing them, can we switch to virtual?
And so, again, a little bit of a loaded question. So, we are asking that parents, with all as much information they are getting, to make a commitment for a semester. And here's why. There's a couple of, let's start with the student reason. The transition back and forth from students from an online courseware to in-person does cause challenges if you keep going back and forth. It's not good for students. The students have to get adjusted to the in-person teacher just as well they get adjusted to the online teacher. We know there's a period of adjustment when school starts no matter what. We're figuring it out, like our teachers, what the expectation, all those things, just the nuances, like who the teacher is, who the student is, all those things, and we're learning each other and trying to get into a groove or routine. So any upsetting of that routine causes some challenges and transition issues for everybody involved. So to minimize that, we are asking that everybody commit to the semester. Also, staffing, and I know that's a big issue as well. Right now, our local schools and I are working together to create staffing that's going to be in the best interest of the students. So once we make those decisions, when people try to move back and forth, that impacts the staffing. That could impact the social distancing, going vice versa, or going to us. It could actually throw the pupil-teacher ratio off into a bigger ratio than we ever want for our students. So we are going to ask they commit to the semester. In extenuating circumstances, they'll work with their principal, if it's in person, and the district superintendent in the region to make a decision that may be an extenuating circumstance, be able to help the student. But we are going to, again, ask that they commit for that semester, and in extenuating circumstance, work with the local school principal, the district sup in the region, and they'll work with the DoDEA virtual school, because we want what's best for students without impacting every other student as well.
Thank you. Ms. Lake, do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't. Thank you.
All right.
I forgot to ask you, Scarlett.
Not a problem at all.
All right. I'm not trying to give you loaded questions, Dr. Marshall, but hopefully this next one isn't that way. What regular counseling services for emotional well-being will be provided for our virtual students?
So we know that is something that parents are very concerned with, and we understand that. And so we're working with the guidance services at headquarters to figure out how to make sure that the students get those type of services. It could be from the local school that is still happening, or it may be from somebody that we've put on staff. What I will just guarantee is that the students will have access to a counselor. They will have access to those services. We just don't know at this point who that person will be and where they will sit under.
And also our teachers, the virtual option teachers, they will establish rapport with the students, and they'll do their very best to get to know them. So they will be available to, if they see something, they can also alert either administration or counselors. So they're there too to be someone that's watching out for the students and their emotional well-being.
Thank you both for your answers. And next, our next question is actually for Mr. Sanchez. Can you explain when, where, and how often our kids will have to wear masks during the school day?
Certainly. Good evening, everybody. Certainly everything that we look at as we're doing all of this planning comes through the lens of safety for our students and for our staffs. The objective here is to minimize the use of face coverings for students while remaining confident in our commitment to follow best practices for health and safety. First, we're working to see where unused space or inefficient space in classrooms can be adapted to expand the learning environment within each school. An additional example of expanding the learning environment would be conducting physical education classes outside as often as the weather allows. Then we're also visually inspecting each classroom to identify and remove non-essential furniture and materials. As a final consideration, we'll determine when students cannot remain socially distanced of 6 feet and require the use of face coverings. Students will have to wear face coverings during transition periods when they go from one classroom to another. Although it's yet to be determined, we anticipate students will not be required to wear face coverings during some classes, outside activities, and of course, while eating lunch. The goal, though, is to create enough distance in every educational area, in every instructional area, so that kids can take the mask off. We're also working to identify more areas for lunch throughout the school, not just the cafeteria. It may also be our information centers, maybe additional classrooms, could be outside with tables, as well as creating more lunch periods during the school day so that fewer students will be coming to the cafeteria at one time, again, creating more space. Our priority is creating more space, thus allowing more distance between students and opportunities to be in their classes without face masks. When we can't do that, then we'll have to be wearing the face masks.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Oh, and another question for you is, many of our classrooms have too many students to properly social distance. Are there plans to further divide the classes to ensure social distancing?
Yes, another good question. We'll have a better understanding of class sizes once we have all the applications from the parents that want to have their children in the virtual school. And once those are tallied, we'll know how many we'll be having in our own face-to-face brick and mortar classes. Based on the number of students enrolled in the virtual school, class sizes can then be leveled. In the meantime, as I mentioned a little bit in the previous one, we're working to see where unused space or inefficient use of space can be adapted to expand those learning environments within each school. We're also visually inspecting each classroom. That's really the focus of what we're going to be doing the first 2 weeks of August, to expand the learning environment in each of the classrooms. What we're looking for is, as I mentioned earlier, the non-essential stuff. Our teachers frequently create warm and inviting atmospheres for their kids in their classrooms, and they augment classroom furniture with personally procured furniture. And I'll give you a for instance. You go into classrooms and you may see a couch, you may see a couple of beanbag chairs, you may see extra bookshelves, something that really makes that environment more, not only aesthetically better, but more functional and more comfortable for kids. While we would like to have those things in classrooms, really we're going to be looking at, while we're in this COVID environment, taking that furniture out. And the more furniture we take out, the more space we create for students to be apart. And that's really our goal. We're looking at multiple configurations within classrooms. It's possible that we may have some students distance at tables, and we can augment it with desks in classes. So even if we can't have all students without a mask, perhaps we can rotate within a class period, and some kids could take off their mask if they're socially distanced, while others still may have to wear those if they're within 6 feet. There's going to be many different things we're going to try to do to blend, to give kids breaks during the day, to not have to wear that mask continuously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. My next question is for Dr. Howard Brahani. The question is, what is the plan for lunches?
Good evening, everyone. That is a really great question. We know how important lunch is for our students, so we've spent a lot of time really planning and thinking about school lunches. We have been working really closely with our facility leads and our school meal program experts, so we have some really great plans in place. As with the rest of the school day, we're really prioritizing student health and safety. During meals, obviously students won't be able to wear masks, so our mitigation plans really center on strategies to ensure social distancing and other proactive measures. So Mr. Sanchez mentioned some of the strategies we're putting in place in other areas, and in the cafeteria, we're thinking about schools maybe serving lunches in the classrooms. Others will add lunch sections, and some are looking at alternative seating arrangements and then areas for those lunches for students. Our principals will be able to share a really specific plan as we get closer to the school year opening. There are some commonalities between all of our schools that I wanted to share with you tonight. First, before students enter wherever they're going to be having lunch, we will insist on excellent hand washing and hygiene protocol. So our students will be washing their hands frequently throughout the school day. That will become a very important standard operating procedures as we return students to schools. Second, we're able to offer grab and go lunches at all of our schools across Europe. And this really increases our food safety efforts. So we're really excited to be able to start the school year off by offering grab and go throughout the entire region. And then finally, there's a plan to clean and disinfect all of the surfaces between groups of students. So we've put in that safety precaution as well. Another thing I'd like to mention is that we're working really closely with our military partners to outline open campus lunch opportunities for students. Those might look the same as they did last year, but those might change a little bit. And so we're working with, again, each of our military installations to outline that. Specific plans will be outlined again by our principals before the school year starts. But really the most important point here is that we realize how important lunch is for students, not just the eating part of that, but the social aspects of that. And so we will make sure that health and safety is our absolute priority during this time.
Thank you. Another question for you, Dr. Howard Burhani, is what is the plan for social distancing on buses? Will extra buses be added to ensure spacing?
This is another really great question and something that we've spent a lot of time on. We worked really closely with our transportation department at all levels, at our district levels, at our region levels, and with our headquarter partners. We really want to put plans in place that mitigate the issues on buses with students being close to one another. So first, we are following guidelines within our host nations, our CDC, and then the DoD standards regarding the use of masks on buses and other public transportation. So if you traveled at all during COVID on public transportation, you know that in most places, if not all, you're required to wear a mask. So in addition to masks, we will maximize social distancing on the bus through seating arrangements whenever possible. So we'll be working with students to skip seats and things like that whenever that's possible. But again, if it's not possible, students will be required to wear masks, and our bus drivers will have extra masks in the event that students forget theirs or something like that. And at this time, we're not adding extra buses.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, my next question is actually for Ms. Hayes. Will kids still be able to have recess? If not, what type of physical activity opportunities will be provided?
So good evening. I am happy to represent our superintendent, Mr. Kent Warford in DoDEA-Europe West for tonight's forum. You know, when you ask students what the most important part of their day is, especially elementary students, they're going to say either lunch or recess. We know how extremely important recess is to our students. We also know from research how important it is to their well-being to have that extra time for outside play. So as we prepare for the beginning of school, we want to be careful to coordinate all of these activities with taking into consideration the health protection level, our commands, our host nations, and especially the space that we have for those students to play in. So recess will still be held, possibly in conjunction with the lunch schedule as it has been in the past. It might be necessary due to the space to stagger the time for recess in order to limit the number of classes outside and allow for social distancing. So as we think forward to the school year, we do know that recess is important. We want to be able to enable those students to have recess in a safe environment, and students will be guided to and from recess, and they'll be stopping along the way at the hand sanitation stations to disinfect or to wash their hands as they go to and from recess.
Thank you. Another question for you, Ms. Hayes, is will there be physical education classes? If so, what will they look like?
So yes, there will be opportunities for students to participate in physical education. And as Mr. Sanchez alluded to, when possible, those PE classes need to be held outside so that we can have social distancing. In the case of inclement weather, PE can be held inside. And we would also take into consideration the space for the class. And as long as our space does not, or the students do not take up more than 30% of the occupied allowed load for that classroom, we're okay. And or as long as there aren't 50 students in that space. So we should be good for PE classes even inside, as we have to do so from time to time for inclement weather. Our content area experts are also working with our teachers to ensure that there are several social distancing activities that can still take place in physical education for students at all levels.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. My next question is actually for Dr. Kelker. The question is, what are the protocols and procedures when a student or employee exhibits symptoms of COVID-19?
Well, thank you. We do have DoDEA protocols and procedures in writing available for parents to look at. It's available on the DoDEA website. It's prominently displayed. You don't have to do a lot of clicks to get to it. So if you go to the DoDEA website, you will see that plan there. It's under the DoDEA COVID-19 operational guidelines and protocol documents. I won't read it for time constraints sakes, but I will just summarize that if a student is displaying signs of illness, they'll be referred to the school nurse, who will do an assessment, and if they agree that the child should go home, the parents or the sponsors would be contacted and asked to come pick up the child, and also to follow the installation's procedure. Every installation has slightly different procedures for the protocols of reporting to the medical treatment facility and for testing. And if indeed the student is found to be positive, then we would close the school and do a very thorough cleaning and disinfection. Also at this time, we would have the principal, our administrators, work with the public health at that installation, the commanders, and they'll make a determination if the health protection level, the HB-Con level, should be changed. Because if it is changed from Alpha or Bravo to Charlie, then we would have to transition to online learning. So they'll be making that decision locally on what is happening on the ground. Is it an isolated case, or are we seeing several students and employees displaying illness or coming down with the virus?
Could I make a comment, Ms. Jacobson, along what Dr. Kelker has shared?
Go ahead, ma'am.
I just want to mention that this is an area where our parents are absolutely critical as our partners. I can't overstate that enough. It's going to be really, really important that our parents keep a close eye on their children. And if there's any indication whatsoever that a child might not be feeling well or may have a temperature, we're going to ask that you keep the child at home. We've implemented something that we think is going to make this easier for our children. Our children love perfect attendance, and so do we. I mean, we're so proud to give those certificates, but we're not going to do those. We're not going to add that pressure to families. So just if you can help us out on that, that would be one of the most important things that you could do to help us maintain this safe environment and hopefully curb that potential spread of the virus. Thank you, Ms. Jacobson.
And Dr. McMullen, that's a great point, because we are asking parents this year to check their children within 2 hours of sending them to school to make sure they don't appear ill. If there's the slightest doubt, please keep them at home. We're doing the same for our employees as well. If it, under the old, prior to the pandemic, you were that soldier, you had a little sniffle, but you went in because you just had to get the work done. And we're asking, don't do that. Stay home. Don't take the chance of infecting your colleagues or your students. And so a little shift in how have been raised in the past regarding how we come into work and that dedication to come into work. Stay home if you have the slightest doubt that you're ill or if you think that your child is ill. Thank you.
Thank you both for giving us that information and about that. And actually another question for you, Dr. Kelker, is, and it relates actually to what you've already said, under what circumstances will schools revert to 100% digital learning again?
Oh, great. Yeah, I did touch upon it in my last response. So as long as we're in Alpha and Bravo, if local conditions, if the commanders concur, we'll be doing in brick and mortar schools. But if we see a spike or we see it going in the wrong direction, we will consult with the installation commanders. And the trigger, as you'll see in the guideline that I mentioned on the website, is, Charlie, we have to go to remote and virtual education.
Thank you. Another question we have for you as well is, what organized sports can athletes expect to take place for the fall?
Okay, well, as you know, Dr. McMullen already mentioned that we will not be doing football because we couldn't figure out how to use social distance in football. We just could not figure that out. If anyone has a plan, please, no, I'm just kidding. No, we are going to have the following. We have cross country. We have modified cheer. The cheerleaders will not be doing stunts, but they can do cheers and they can social distance. We'll be doing a little modified golf. And in tennis, we will not be doing doubles, only singles, and that's for the fall sports. So we are researching, okay, if we can't do football, what other competitive, appropriate online virtual activities can we sponsor in lieu of? And so we're researching and looking at that to see if we can incorporate that in our fall schedule as well. Something like fitness games, for example, where teams can compete. It's all done online, but still have that competitive process and still have them working out and outside. And so hopefully we'll be able to offer something like that in lieu of the sports that we cannot do this fall.
Thank you. And actually, I have another question that relates just to what you said.
Okay.
What extracurricular activities can our students expect to participate in this fall? Will there be any virtual or in person?
I am happy to report that yes, we do have plans for the typical activities that we offer each fall. We are looking at keeping those, but doing them virtually. Of course, we will not be having large gathering, flying students internationally, or hosting them in youth hostels, for example, because it's not possible to do the social distancing. So we are researching, looking, and working with our school teachers and sponsors of these events to see how we can transition to a virtual way of accomplishing that. The good news is, because if we're successful, and we will be in this transition, we should be able to allow more students to participate. So we're very excited about that.
Thank you. Now we're going to switch a little bit off of sports. So the next question is, will JROTC run as normal? Will there still be drills, marksmanship, and etc.?
Absolutely. We do have plans to continue that program. Of course, it will be, the word that I use a lot is modified. It will look a little different because you won't be doing close marching, for example. You'll be spread out. And we have found ways to sponsor marksmanship and also maintain social distancing. So yes, ROTC will be offered at our high schools this school year.
Thank you. And one last question. Can those who choose the virtual option still participate in local school extracurricular activities?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because when our initial guidance went out, the answer was no, but that has changed. Students who are in the virtual environment may indeed participate. It's the parents' choice if they wish to have their children participate in the extracurricular activities. So the answer is yes.
Thank you. And my last question is for Dr. McMullen. The question is, will ancillary services still be provided for our homeschool students? Oh, just one moment, everyone.
It would help if I could figure out where the mute is very quickly. All right, I do want to add just one comment for our homeschoolers. If you do homeschool, or if you know families or have friends that may, please let the homeschoolers know that they will continue to have access to what we call auxiliary services. For example, homeschoolers can still use the school library. They can use the school building itself before or after hours. They can participate in music, sports, and other extracurricular activities. Of course, they'll have to follow the local school and installation safety measures that we have in place when they're using these services, but that has not changed. So that may be something you want to help us get the word out to our homeschoolers in the event they're not on the town hall tonight. So in closing, I just want to say that I hope this evening has been informative and helpful to you. As I mentioned in the beginning of our town hall, we know that we can't possibly answer all of your questions tonight. We are committed, though, to answering your questions. And we hope that you have enough information now so that you can make an informed decision regarding virtual versus the in-person instruction for your child. We know these are tough decisions. This is a challenging time we live in, but we do stand beside you to help you in every way possible make these decisions. Again, this Facebook Town Hall is just one of the platforms that we're using to disseminate information regarding our return to school plans to our parents and our communities. Principals, community superintendents, district superintendents, and local military leadership will still be hosting their own forums, and they stand ready to help you with questions you may have, particularly about the specifics of your child's school. We also have a great deal of information and FAQs on the DoDEA website. Please know that we are flexible and we're prepared for contingencies as they arise. Changes in the local conditions and HPCon levels will drive our decision making, and we'll continue to work very closely with our military leadership and our healthcare experts to react quickly as necessary. In the event that local health conditions change, students will move to the digital learning with their classroom teacher, similar to what we provided at the end of school year 1920. All of us yearn for the way things were before the virus struck and before our schools were closed to our students. And we will get there. But we must all work together within the constructs of our current reality to ensure that the health and safety of not only our families and friends, but also our neighbors and communities is a priority as well. Therefore, it's critical that we all come together as partners with a strong commitment to following the CDC guidelines and the DoD regulations. I mentioned earlier, parents, we need your help. We're going to need your help every single day as we return to school. Strict adherence to the guidelines around health and safety have resulted in a comparatively positive situation here in Europe, with a continued focus on hygiene and prevention, and a commitment to teaching our children healthy hygiene to help stop the spread of the virus. We have the opportunity to bring our children back to school, to allow them the opportunity to regain some normalcy in their lives, and to continue to support our military's mission. The decisions we make will reflect our mission, our priorities, and the core values of our DoDEA schools. Our guiding vision remains the same. It never changes. Excellence in education for every student, every day, everywhere. And we thank you all for your continued support.
Thank you, Dr. McMullen. This brings us to the end of tonight's virtual town hall, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to our honored guests and to the thousands of stakeholders from across Europe who submitted questions and who've joined us for tonight's event. We understand that our new post-COVID-19 reality presents a lot of changes, challenges, and unknowns for our students, parents, teachers, schools, and communities. We truly appreciate DoDEA's willingness to collaborate with European PTA tonight to answer your questions and to help get this important information out there to our military communities across Europe. For more information on DoDEA's plans for the 2020-2021 return to school, please visit dodea.edu/returntoschool.cfm. Thank you all for joining us and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.